Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel called zuzanareacts, where I learn all things para with your help, and I just share my Slovak Central European point of view. And in today's video we're going to look into Major Arya and his analysis when it comes to kind of the conflict that is in my backyard personally, and what does Sweden's joining NATO actually mean for that. So I am actually super curious what he's going to say, and knowing what to kind of share with you and add. I'm very curious because I feel like you have to be almost in the region to be able to provide an educated point of view. So I'm super curious. Okay, but before we jump into the video,
please like this video and click on the subscribe button and turn on the notification. Thank you so much for your support.
Okay, everyone, let's get started.
Jai Hind friends, I'm Major Gaurav Arya and you're watching the Chanakya Dialogues English. Like this video, subscribe to our channel and don't forget to press the bell icon. You know, yesterday there was this big...
Can I just say, I really like his map. I wonder what the different colors all mean. And Slovakia's here. This is Slovakia.
news that Sweden had decided to finally join NATO after a lot of dilly-dallying for a lot of time. I mean, it's been over a decade since I've been hearing that Sweden wants to join NATO, but it's not coming through somehow. I don't know what is the problem. But recently, after the Russians invaded Ukraine, suddenly there was this boost, within Sweden to get this application of joining the NATO up and going. And finally, Sweden has decided it will join NATO. Now, I'm going to explain on the map why it is so. Why is Sweden afraid? Why is Sweden scared? So it says Sweden officially joins NATO as the 32nd member of the Transatlantic Military Alliance. Now, I have my notes here, ladies and gentlemen. And ending decades of post-World War II neutrality. Sweden, Switzerland were all neutral countries during the Second World War. You're aware that the Second World War finished in 1945 with Hitler's suicide, surrender of Japan, etc., etc. Now, this here is Russia. And they say that Russia's largest city to the west is St. Petersburg. That is what the Russians say. Largest city to the west, the Russian west, is St. Petersburg. And if you look at the other direction, the major port city, I mean, of course, there are a lot of cities here, also towns and cities here, but they say that the major city towards the east is Vladivostok. Vladivostok is a very famous port and it is coveted by China also. In fact, 2 years back, China laid claims on Vladivostok, which had upset the Russians. They said the Chinese, as usual, are talking nonsense. Now, look here, ladies and gentlemen, this is Western Europe and this is Sweden. And here is Norway and Finland. And of course, this whole bunch of these countries, Germany, France, England, Spain, etc., downstairs with Ireland being here now. How close is Russia to Sweden? How close is it? I'll tell you what has happened. Russia has already said that it covets Finland. It has already made those sounds saying that, Finland should be a part of the Russian Federation. Nothing has come out officially, but there is a lot of talk in Russian media, Russian social media, pro-military, nationalistic.
Okay, wow, I've never heard this one before. That's pretty scary.
Bloggers, they've all been talking about Finland being part of Russia now. This surely scares the Finnish people because Russia is this huge power. And all this, whether you call it Volga Federal District or Northwestern Federal District, Central Federal, this is how the map has been segregated. The fact of the matter is, this entire thing from here, all right? This entire thing from here, this whole thing is nothing but Russia. This whole thing is nothing but Russia, all throughout, till here. This is Russia. So, and this is Murmansk here, and this is St. Petersburg here. So St. Petersburg is the biggest Russian city towards Russia's west. And how far is St. Petersburg from Sweden? Not very far. 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 kilometers. It's right there. And this is why Sweden is scared. And how far is Sweden actually from Ukraine? Again, not very far, ladies and gentlemen. Ukraine is right here. And this entire area, you see, this is Ukraine. And this entire 25% of Ukraine, this area,
How far is Slovakia from Ukraine? Very, very far. Very, very close. Almost on the borders.
This area is now Russian territory, controlled by the Russians, and the West is not asking the Russians to hand it back to Ukraine. And this is what one of Ukraine's top demands are: hand over.
Yeah, it will never happen. It will never happen. I personally don't believe that Russia will ever give back those territories. Like, people can live in their la la land and think about it the way they want it. They should, but should and the reality are different things, brothers and sisters.
Our territory back to us. Russia is saying no, and the West is not pursuing that. All the West is saying is that stop fighting, stop the cease, effect the ceasefire immediately, and we want a stop to hostilities. While they
Why the West is not? Because in essence, I don't think anyone really cares. Because it is actually not a significant territory that Russia would have overtaken. That's why.
want to cause damage to the Russians, but their war plans are not going exactly as they had thought they would, in spite of pumping in billions of dollars and arms and weapons into Ukraine. Zelensky has not been able to pull it off as he had promised. Now, the reason why Sweden is doing it is Article 5 of NATO's treaty obliges members to come to the aid of an ally under threat. Now, this grants Sweden the collective security guarantee it sought after Russia's invaded Ukraine. So, Russia, see, this is Russia, all right? Russia invades Ukraine. When Russia invades Ukraine, now Belarus is a Russian partner, very close to the Russians. In fact, the Russians had put in nuclear missiles in Belarus, all right? Now, look at it from Sweden's point of view. Sweden is a classical Western Europe country, classically Western Europe. And there is a huge difference in the way of thinking between Eastern Europe and Western Europe, because much of Eastern Europe at one point in time was under the Soviet influence. Much of it.
Yeah.
And they still maintain those links with quote unquote Mother Russia. Now, when
okay, I don't know. I don't know about that. I think, look, I can tell you this much. Obviously, this would have been here and then through Berlin, somehow the Eastern Bloc, right? Which is now this region where I am: Slovakia, Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland. This is Central Europe. And links with Russia. I guess, yes, Slovakia is basically 100% dependent on Russia's oil and gas. So yes, there are links to Russia, but if you are not taking gas from them, you have it, which we currently don't. This is why the price is skyrocketed like mad, because it was cheap. And we were able to resell that gas to the Western European country and make profit. We were profiteering out of that. Links with Russia, but if you're insinuating any kind of ideological alliance, it has always been pro-West. So I don't know, Polish people really don't like Russians, like really, really, really hate them. Hate them is perhaps a strong word, but actually I don't even think that is a strong word for Polish, because they were invaded by Russians, because they've been starved to death by Russians. They really do not friends, So I don't know what links he's actually talking about. Maybe they have some trade deals, like even, let's say, I know for, let's say, meat manufacturing in here, a lot of one of very famous Slovak brand is exporting to Russia, like a premium product. So there are trade deals, but like, I'm not too sure what we're trying to insinuate here, because of the communistic rule we have. This is why no one likes Russia, because we knew what the regime was and no one liked it. This is why we want to distance ourselves from Russia as far as possible. And it's not like Russia is doing swimmingly. It's not like they have greatest economy, right? There's certainly many things wrong, I guess, in their country. If you would have to get a choice to live between the US or Russia, what would you pick? No, that's your answer.
Russia enters Ukraine, takes away 25% of territory, Sweden is afraid. And Sweden is saying that, This entire thing about neutrality that we had been able to continue since the Second World War, 1945 onwards, now this no longer holds true. What if Russia decides, Russia is already threatening Finland. Russia, for all practical purposes, is today threatening Finland. And after Finland, it's a small hop here, and this is Sweden.
I just don't really know. I would have to go and research because I haven't heard. Just because several nationalistic people say that they want to, go to Finland, it doesn't mean that Russia is threatening Finland. It's just individual vloggers and bloggers. That's what he mentioned before. So I don't know. I would have to go and research for any kind of claims that Putin would have made towards Finland. And from my point of view, what he's always talking about, like having if anything, having the Russian Empire back, which would kind of mean, in a sense, overtaking, Ukraine for that matter. So that's where I would say he just won, right? He was reelected for another 6 years. But I've never heard him talk about, wanting to do anything more than that. He never, let's say, would have pursued Slovakia or Czech Republic or Poland, for that matter. I think maybe some territories of Poland as a part of Russian Empire. Like there is a Russian Empire and there is a USSR. It's different. So I don't know. Obviously, you can never know. You can only ever just guess. But I personally don't perceive it as a threat. I don't know why everyone's panicking. Maybe they have different information to me, but you know what? It's good to have peace of mind, right?
What will happen to Sweden? Think about it. But if Sweden actually joins NATO, then they are saying that according to Article 5 of NATO, of NATO's constitution, Article 5 says that if one member is attacked, it means everybody's attacked.
No.
So tomorrow, if Sweden is part of NATO formally and Russia attacks Sweden, then it will have deemed to have attacked the United States of America. It's frightening, isn't it? So
yeah, but like you would have to be a complete and utter lunatic to attack in that case. Obviously, not that they are. I know that when they are when you're not protected by that alliance, it may feel scary, but there is still Finland as a buffer state. I wonder, I almost feel like, do they have any other knowledge that we don't about them just expediting joining? Because to me, this only aggregates Russia even more. Because whatever they've claimed was, we're doing all what we are doing because you're expanding NATO towards east, and I was promised that it's not going to happen. So this definitely is and fuels worsening of those relationships in my eyes. But let's continue.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope I've been able to explain to you sufficiently that Article 5 of NATO says one guy is attacked, or one country is attacked, everybody's attacked.
Yeah.
This is exactly why Ukraine. Why is this war happening with Russia? Why did Russia attack? It is exactly because of this reason. Ukraine was never a part of NATO.
Yeah.
Ukraine is not part of NATO even today. Ukraine wanted to join NATO. Had Ukraine joined NATO, what would have happened? The NATO people would have put their missiles and everything here. There would have been warships here, right? There would have been submarines here. And this would have been right under Russian territory, right at Russia's throat. Russia never wanted that. Yeah. And this was also a violation of the understanding that the USSR had with, or Russia had with NATO at that point in time. That, you don't have the USSR threat any longer. Please do not expand. Please do not threaten Russia.
Yeah.
They did not understand. They kept on pushing. Ukraine kept on pushing for a NATO membership. And it resulted in this war where 25% of that country is gone and taken over by the Russians. And the Russian army is saying we'll take over the rest of Ukraine also.
Well, I don't think that's feasible. I don't think Putin has ever claimed that they want to take over the entire country. He might have had other speeches that claim about the Great Russia I just mentioned, but yeah, obviously. But this is just a very difficult situation because this is a post World War II scenario where, you know, you're promised like neutral states pretty much. You know, Belarus is pro Russia, but you know, like I don't know, like you have here like a neutral state, you have here a neutral state, right? Here you already, this is NATO, this is NATO, this is NATO, this is NATO, this is for Russia. But this is the only country that you know, it's still vastly bordering with, perhaps not as much as Finland is, with Russia territory, and you have a new Cuban Missile Crisis if Americans come and put their missiles here. It's just, for all purposes, completely unacceptable. Like, but you know what is sad about all of this? This is all Slavic countries, and the West had done it successfully. They successfully divided. So basically, you look. This is Slavic. 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 Apart from Hungary, these countries are Slavic as well. Ukraine, Slavic. Like, imagine that you have all of this, Belarus. Imagine you have all of this, Russia plus all these countries. Just lightly said, like, I know that Hungary doesn't belong to a Slavic nation. You would have a major nation on the playing field, but that will never ever happen, ever, because we've been so burned by the communism and the regime. Like, for example, in Romania, it was the most they've had communism the most brutal out of all the countries. We actually were quite lucky. In a sense, we had it so good. we had something called socialism with a human face, that then we had Russian people intervening, coming to tanks to Slovakia, something that Slovak people, modern Slovak people, like my parents, will never forget. That invaded Slovakia, and just because we did not completely obey to their form of communism, right? So there is a lot of you know, hurt emotions, and really, I think, I'll dislike against that country from the historical point of view. So yeah, we would want to be protected. As I said, Polish people just outright strongly just like that. But at the same time, you know, sometimes you're just born in a country and you don't have that much choice. Like, if you don't stay neutral, it will create wider world problems. So there has to be then these powers negotiating together to figure this all out. It's a complex situation.
It has also threatened the West with nuclear war.
It has.
Should the West physically put troops on the ground? So they're saying if NATO puts troops on the ground, then Russia will take it as the final okay to go absolutely nuclear. So nobody wants to mess with Russia at this moment, because Russia and China are extremely close. This is not to say that China will get into the war. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that a lot of economic benefits go from China to Russia and vice versa. Russia buys a lot of goods from China. China buys a lot of Russian oil, and they have this lovely relationship going on, which has mitigated to quite a large extent the economic blockade of Russia, which the West has put in place after Russia invaded Ukraine. Now, so Biden is expected to use the Sweden's membership as a leverage to urge Republicans to approve military assistance to Ukraine, with the ultimate goal of Ukraine joining NATO. Now, this is unlikely to happen. I think Biden is pulling a fast one on Congress. Now, Biden says, I'm going to use Sweden's example. I have not understood the logic. I've studied this in detail, and I have not understood the logic. How can Sweden joining NATO be a leverage for Biden to use for a future membership of Ukraine to NATO, thereby giving funds to you? It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
This entire spectrum is nonsense, what Biden is thinking about. I mean, Sweden is one country. They decide to join NATO. NATO says yes. It is between Sweden and NATO. And Russia does not have a point of view in this, because Russia says, we have nothing to do with Sweden. We don't want Sweden. In fact, Russia says we don't even want Ukraine, but Ukraine decides to go to NATO. Then it's a problem for us. Sweden going to NATO is not a problem for Russia. But Ukraine going to NATO is a problem for Russia. So Russia invades. Now, Biden, as I said, he's expected to use Sweden's membership as a leverage to urge Republicans to approve military assistance to Ukraine with the ultimate goal of Ukraine joining NATO. How is that going to happen? How is that today? I think the Americans want something and the Ukrainians want something else. What the Ukrainians want is an end to the war, number one. Number two, they want a return of 25% of Ukraine that Russia has taken away. Today, I don't think the Ukrainians are looking at NATO membership right now. I mean, if there is NATO membership, and let us say NATO membership is given, then Article 5 will be invoked by Zelensky immediately. Immediately. And what does Article 5 say? And I'm saying that, okay, let's look at this scenario, ladies and gentlemen. Why aren't the Western countries or NATO members giving full NATO membership to Ukraine right now as we speak?
It's never going to happen.
Why?
Never.
I just want to know, if this is between Ukraine and NATO, and if Ukraine is a sovereign country, it might be at war, but Ukraine is a sovereign country. If Ukraine wants to get inside NATO or become a NATO member, and NATO says it's fine for Ukraine to become a member, what is stopping both these people? They can easily do so. Why aren't they doing it? They aren't doing it because NATO, which is pretty much the United States of America, Canada, etc., and also this entire bloc, right? NATO, this entire bloc.
Yeah.
If Ukraine joins NATO, then everybody has to go to war against Russia.
Yeah. No one wants to go against.
Everybody goes to war against Russia. That in itself is a problem. And now,
okay, I'll just say that no one is this insane that will allow Ukraine into NATO, because that is just the ultimate World War III. The only insane people on the block are the US people. Gosh, I will have to take this video down after I post it for a number of days. Because their economy is tanking, and the only way how they know how to bring it back is to go to war. That's their only way. And apologies to any Americans watching this, but that's true. That's how they try to recoup their economy. So obviously they're pushing, and whoever is building a nonsense about Sweden, I don't see it. Sweden being a leverage to get more money. Is the kind of the shadow governments or the military complex that's pushing for war, and I feel like that's the only way how they know how to do business, and because they don't care. Let's say Russia launches a nuclear attack on Slovakia. What's Slovakia as a country for Americans, right? It's a collateral damage. There's 5 million people, one of them smaller states of America. Do they care? There is acceptance in war that you have collateral damage. Let's just sacrifice a country or two. We don't care, as long as we're able to tank money where we need to. I think that's their arrogance, and but no one in Europe is insane to want to go to war like that. No one. And I mean, in the past, any kind of alliance is just proven like not very good. And I think that you can't really actually win a war with Russia, although if you have American troops, Trump is basically saying he's not going to be funding NATO anymore. All these kind of things, because NATO has been largely, as he had said, American thing, because they have literally bases there anywhere. I think that they are able to attack within 30 or an hour across the world bases. So, they have the military. They're basically, but what they fail to know, to recognize when it comes to NATO, is that it's their power. How do I say? Power puppet. Like without NATO, they wouldn't have a lot of influence. So they should really watch what they're saying, actually. Oh, sorry, I'm getting AA.
We'll come to China, which is also another major factor here. So see, tensions between China and Philippines, they have flared. We've already covered it before. But let me tell you, China and Philippines, this is Philippines here, and this is China, and tensions are flaring up. And On 5th of March, 3 days back, the Chinese Coast Guard actually fired water cannons on a Filipino vessel and damaged it and injured 4 people. And they're talking about Israeli missiles. So I'll explain a little bit of that also. You see, they're saying that from April 22nd to May 8th, Balikatan 2024. This is an annual military exercise in which the United States and Philippines in the central Luzon region, they will exercise. So where is Luzon? Ladies and gentlemen, this is Manila. Here is the capital of Philippines, just up north from Manila. This is the Luzon area. If memory serves right, this is the Luzon area. And this is where the Americans and the Filipino forces will do their exercises. They'll do it on land, they'll do it around the sea, they'll do it on air. And why is that scary for China? Right? Because what they are saying is that they are going to put surface-to-air Python and Derby missiles and this entire Israeli-made missile defense system called, Spider is surface-to-air Python and Derby, also called Spider. So this is what they are activating there, and they're saying in case of a Chinese invasion, you have the Indian BrahMos. You're aware that India has supplied BrahMos to the Philippines. You're also aware that the Spider system will take care of any aircraft or missile that China decides to fire on the Philippines. Philippines is taking this threat by China extremely seriously. And this is something that President Marcos Jr.,
Interesting.
he has said. Now, he has been urging China to start a hotline between Beijing and Manila. There should be a hotline in case anything goes wrong. Top leaders can speak to each other and stop this. But, of course, what China focuses on is brinksmanship, ladies and gentlemen. What China is doing is it will keep on pushing, and creating an environment of terror. That is what China does. So China will keep on pushing. And here is Philippines. Philippines is very small geographically in front of China. But they'll keep on pushing, aggressive maneuvers in the seas, trying to attack, trying to nudge your vessel with their vessel in the sea and trying to overpower you somehow. This is what China does. All the while, Philippines is getting jittery and Philippines is telling Beijing, let's have a hotline, let's discuss things out. China is dilly-dallying, China is delaying. But here is a statement which Marcos Jr. has given. He's saying our sovereignty is sacred. We will not compromise it in any way. Right? So, ladies and gentlemen, this is all I have for you in today's The Chanakya Dialogues. I'll just repeat, Sweden joining NATO, Russia taking over 25% of Ukraine, and why this is leaving everybody very, very jittery. And here, Philippines, in the Luzon area, north of Philippines, inside Philippines, Americans and the Filipinos. I guess the American Special Forces will be there. The Navy is going to be there. The Air Force is going to be there. A detachment of US Army is going to be there. Everybody's going to be there, and they're going to advise the Filipinos, advise them, and also put in place Spider, air defense systems inside Philippines for a possible Chinese invasion.
Okay. So I believe this is it to his video. I'm not too sure how the whole Philippine scenario is relevant to what's happening in Europe. It is uneasy. I think providing Trump wins, if Trump wins, I'm quite confident that the Russia-Ukrainian war is going to stop. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's completely out of whack, unrealistic that Ukraine is going to join NATO, like ever. Unless there are some other developments in the far future where everyone's happy and we're all humans and we just are not greedy for other people's territory and we kind of work on ourselves in terms of ego. I don't see that happening. I think it's an illusionary, out of whack concept. No one in NATO is insane enough to think of causing a third war, essentially, which is not going to be pretty. I think that Einstein had said that. I don't know how the Third World War is going to end, but I know that the Fourth World War is going to be played with sticks and stones, right? So you can't win in a nuclear kind of world. It feels like just an extension of actually the Cold War we didn't think we had anymore. But that's it. That's, I think, it for me. I feel like I've shared a lot of my thoughts on this video throughout. I think that he surprisingly had a good hang of what's happening. So I'm actually quite impressed, to be honest. And I think with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video with me. If you did enjoy it, please give a thumbs up, share, like, and subscribe to this channel. And I'll see you next one. Until then, please do take care. I'm sending much love. Bye-bye.